Mira had always been the kind of girl who quietly blended into the background. She was soft-spoken, shy to a fault, and preferred books and music over parties and socializing. In her small town, she was known as the polite girl with big eyes who never raised her voice. But behind her quietness, she carried something heavy, an insecurity that had followed her for years. It was not life-threatening, but a personal health issue that had made her self-conscious, something she could never talk about openly. For months, she gathered courage, and finally decided to have a small private surgery done. She wanted to get it over with, without anyone in her family or friends even knowing. She traveled alone to the city, her hands trembling as she held the appointment slip. The hospital was gleaming white, modern, with glass doors and polished marble floors. Every step echoed as if the building itself could sense her nervousness. She prayed she wouldn't faint before she even met the doctor. When the receptionist finally called her name, she stood up, clutching her bag close to her chest. She entered the consultation room slowly, and the world seemed to blur for a second. Sitting across the desk was the most unexpected figure. Not an older doctor with glasses and a tired smile like she had imagined, but a young man, maybe in his late 20s. He was tall, confident, with sharp features and eyes that held a mix of warmth and authority. His lab coat was spotless, his stethoscope hanging casually, but what caught her off guard was the way he smiled at her, as if he had already noticed her shyness and wanted to ease it. "Miss Mira," he said, his voice deep yet gentle. She nodded, her throat suddenly dry. "I'm Drive, Arjun Malhotra. Please have a seat. You don't need to be nervous. We'll just talk first." She sat down, her fingers twisting the strap of her bag. She tried to look anywhere but at him, but it was impossible. He had a presence that pulled her in, and yet, his eyes didn't hold arrogance. They held reassurance. As he began to ask her questions about her health, her reason for surgery, and her medical history, she found herself stumbling over words. Her cheeks grew warm every time his gaze met hers. She had come here to deal with a problem, nothing else, but something about him made her heartbeat irregular. She wondered if he could hear it with his doctor's ears. He noticed her hesitations, and instead of rushing her, he leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice as if speaking to a friend. "It's okay. You don't have to feel embarrassed. You're not alone in this. Many people go through it. You're safe here." Those words felt like magic. Safe. She hadn't realized how much she needed to hear that. Over the next few days, she returned for tests and pre-surgery checkups. Each time she saw him, her nervousness took a new shape. It wasn't fear of the surgery anymore. It was a different kind of nervousness, the kind that made her want to look nice, the kind that made her heart flutter when she caught him adjusting his watch or scribbling notes. She would replay his words in her mind at night, wondering why she was suddenly thinking about him so much. Arjun, on his side, couldn't help noticing her either. In his career, he had met hundreds of patients. Some loud, some demanding, some grateful. But Mira was different. She spoke less, but her eyes said everything. There was purity in her nervous smiles, honesty in the way she admitted her fears, and something almost fragile in her presence that made him want to protect her. The day of the surgery arrived. Mira was dressed in the hospital gown, her hands cold, her lips pressed together in prayer. As she was wheeled towards the operating theater, she saw him waiting in his surgical cap and mask, his eyes locked with hers, steady and calm. Just before she went under anesthesia, she heard his voice whisper close to her ear, "You'll be fine. Trust me." When she woke up hours later, her head heavy, she found herself in a recovery room. The first thing she saw was him, sitting by her bedside, checking her chart. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. "You're awake," he said softly, smiling. "The surgery went perfectly. You don't have to worry anymore." Tears slipped from her eyes without warning. Months of fear, embarrassment, and self-doubt seemed to dissolve in that one moment. He handed her a tissue gently, his fingers brushing hers for a second, and her heart jumped. In the following weeks, as she healed, her visits to him became less about medical instructions and more about lingering conversations. She found herself laughing at his small jokes, something she hadn't done freely with anyone in years. He would ask her about her town, her family, her dreams. She would listen as he shared little glimpses of his life, how he had studied abroad, how he was running his late father's hospital empire, how despite the wealth and status, he preferred quiet moments over parties. Mira couldn't believe that someone like him, a millionaire doctor, handsome and confident, was actually talking to her like an equal, like a friend. Sometimes she would catch other nurses giggling when he walked past, and she would wonder why he was even giving her so much attention. She was just an ordinary girl, shy and simple. But one evening, as she prepared to leave after her checkup, he stopped her at the doorway. "Mira," he said, his tone different this time. Serious, yet tender. She turned, clutching her dupatta nervously. "Yes, doctor." He smiled faintly. "You don't have to call me doctor anymore. Just Arjun." Her eyes widened. "But, no buts," he interrupted gently. "You've been more than just a patient to me. From the day you walked in, I don't know how to explain it. But you make me feel something I haven't felt in a long time." Her heart thudded so loudly she thought the entire hospital could hear it. She lowered her gaze, her mind spinning. "Mira," he continued, stepping closer, "I know you're shy. I know you've been through a lot quietly. But I want you to know, you don't have to hide with me. I see you, all of you, and I like you." Her lips parted in shock. She had imagined this, in her wildest daydreams, but hearing it was something else. Tears welled in her eyes again, but this time they weren't from sadness. Why me?" she whispered. He tilted his head, smiling softly. "Because you're real. Because you're kind. Because when you look at me, it's not about my money, or my title, or anything else. It's just me, and I can't tell you how rare that is." Silence filled the corridor for a moment, broken only by the sound of her heartbeat. Slowly, she nodded, her tears spilling over. I like you too," she confessed, her voice trembling but true. That night, Mira walked out of the hospital not just as someone healed physically, but as someone who had discovered a new world in her heart. She had come to the city hiding her fears, and she was leaving with a secret she never expected: love. Days turned into weeks, and soon their bond grew beyond hospital walls. He would take her out for quiet dinners, where she slowly opened up about her childhood, her insecurities, her dreams of becoming a teacher. He would listen with full attention, as if her every word was precious. And she, in turn, began to see the man behind the doctor, the one who carried responsibilities on his shoulders, who longed for simplicity, who smiled only with certain people. Their love was not loud or dramatic, but it was deep, steady, and true, like two souls who had been waiting, unknowingly, to meet in the most unexpected of places. Mira's shy nature never fully went away, but with him, she felt safe enough to let her walls down. And Arjun, despite being a millionaire doctor with the world at his feet, found his heart anchored in the quiet strength of a girl who once walked into his office trembling with fear. And so, what began as a private surgery ended as the start of a love story she never dared to dream of, a story where the shy girl found her voice, and the young doctor found his heart.